If you've installed a new winch or replaced your winch line with a new synthetic rope or cable, it's critical that you pre-tension the line on your drum. Today, that's exactly what we'll be doing a walkthrough of. I have a special guest with me, Kat. She's going to help us do this, so let's get started. The first step of this process is finding a good anchor point. Now, you can use a sturdy tree, or in this case, we'll just be using another vehicle. Because I have Kat with me, I'll be hooking up to her Jeep. So we're gonna go position the Jeeps and we'll come back shortly. Okay, so we have both vehicles in position. You'll see that Kat is parked directly in front of me. And now I'll go ahead and unspool the winch line. It's important to note, anytime you're working with a winch line, you should definitely be wearing some leather gloves. We're going to disengage the clutch on this and pull out the winch line. Now, some of you may have noticed that on the end of my winch line, on the thimble, I just have a soft shackle mounted there. There are a lot of different ways to set up your winch. This isn't necessarily the perfect or the right way, but it's the way that I find works best for me. Now, as I pull out this winch line, I'm going to make sure that I'm inspecting the line for any type of damage. Hey buddy, Genji's having fun today. He's out running around trying to find rabbits and squirrels, I guess. What's up, buddy? He'll join us. So depending on the type of winch line you have, you may have an indicator where the color of the rope changes, or a spliced rope on the end that shows when you've reached your last 8 to 10 rolls on the drum. Some winch lines will have an indicator on how much you have left, others may not. So be sure that as you're pulling out your rope or cable, that you're paying attention to how much is left on the drum. Now, every winch manufacturer has a recommendation related to this. So be sure that you check your owner's manual or go to their website and double check what's recommended for your winch. Now that we have the winch line spooled out, I'm going to go ahead and walk down to Kat's Jeep and hook it up. Okay, now that we're down at Kat's Jeep, I'm going to go ahead and take my soft shackle and hook it around her front tow hook. Now remember, anytime you're connecting a strap, winch, or anything to another vehicle, you should always be connecting it to an official recovery point on the vehicle. You should never be connecting any type of shackle, strap, rope to a point on the vehicle that is not rated as a recovery point. I'm going to walk back to my Jeep. We'll go ahead and back up just a little bit to make sure that I can put some tension on the rope before we start winching. I'm going to back up a little bit because I have some extra slack here. Before I do that, I want to make sure that I re-engage the clutch on my winch. Now that we've got a little bit of tension on the winch line, I'm going to go ahead and connect my controller. We'll move on to the next step of actually winching in. And before I do that, I will start the vehicle up. It's going to be a little bit noisy. I apologize in advance, but it's important that you run your engine when you're operating your winch so that you don't wear down your battery. We're ready to start winching. As we do that, I'm going to be watching the drum and guiding the rope back and forth so that it spools evenly across the drum. Now, an important note, be sure you're wearing gloves and never put your hands or any part of your clothing, your body, close to the fair lead. You want to make sure that you are far enough away from the winch that you have no risk of getting caught as it's pulling into the drum. All right, so we're going to start winching Kat toward me. Since we're on a slight incline here, I'm not going to have her apply very much brake, but if you're in a scenario where you're on flat ground, it helps if you have the other person apply a little bit of pressure onto the brake. Not a lot, but just enough to give you some resistance as you pull their vehicle toward you. All right, Kat, you ready? I'm just going to have you put it in neutral, and then what we're going to do is I'm just going to slow pull you up toward my Jeep. As I'm pulling you towards the Jeep, go ahead and apply just a very small amount of brake pressure. We just want a little bit of resistance on the line. All right? Okay, here we go. Now for this exercise, I'm going to go ahead and put my transmission into neutral, apply my parking brake, and I've also chalked all 4 of my wheels. All right, Kat, are you in neutral?
Yep, ready to go.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and start slowly winching you toward me. You'll note that as I'm winching in, I'm applying lateral pressure to the winch line to help evenly distribute it across the drum. If while you're doing this, there becomes too much resistance laterally and you're unable to move it back and forth across the drum, stop. Go ahead and move back to your anchor point and re-rig so that you're pulling from a slightly different angle that provides you a little more flexibility on that lateral movement. The key here is keeping the rope or cable evenly distributed back and forth across your drum. As a reminder, guys, when you're guiding that rope in, make sure you're keeping your hands far away from the winch, the fair lead, or any of the moving parts up there. All right, so I'm going to pause. I'm going to go ahead and look at the drum and make sure that everything's looking even. All right, so as you can see, we've got the vehicles pretty close here. I only have maybe 10 to 15 feet left of winch rope. At this point, I don't need to really pre-tension this last section because I'm always going to be pulling out this amount to winch. So I'm going to go ahead, disengage, or I'm actually going to roll out some line. I'll unhook from Kat's Jeep, and then I'll hand feed the rest of the rope back into my drum. And remember, keep your hands and body away from the fair lead. So I'm going to go ahead and reconnect this to my tow hook up front. All right, everybody, that's a wrap. Please be safe out there.
Stay on the trails.
And thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.